Hey folks, Zach Osterman, Mike Niziolek, Bloomington Herald-Times, Indianapolis Star, Indiana 89, Harvard 76. There will be no football coaching search discussion on this video, at least not intentionally.
I thought that's all we were discussing.
Yeah, it's going to be soon enough. I actually thought Indiana looked better in the second half today. First half, a lot of familiar problems, ball screen coverages, some defensive breakdowns, a bench that still really struggles to kind of find its offense. But in the second half, it felt like Indiana figured some of that out. They strung together more good possessions, and even with Malik Renew clearly a little banged up with the back injury and Xavier Johnson out, they still kind of turned around. I think they were down 1 at halftime, and they won by 13. Scored 50 points in the second half. Harvard even went to a zone to try and kind of quiet down their bigs, and Renew and Kalel Ware combined for 46 points on only 26 shots. Listen, it's Harvard, but when we talk about this team needing to take baby steps and just kind of build, forgive the cliche, one brick at a time, this felt like a day to build on.
Well, you can see, I think, in the second half with the rotations, outside Anthony Leal getting time for Xavier, what this team will look like sort of in conference play when he shortens the bench, right? And right now in the first half, he's going to 5. He's doing full lineup swaps to get those guys time together. But I think it's to build this team, as we said, you got to win games later in the season, and you got to get these guys seasoning, and you got to kind of know what you have, what guys do well. And so they're kind of trying to play through some of these stretches where they're not as sharp, not as sort of effective on the offensive end, obviously, but that'll benefit the team later. And I think in the second half you saw kind of what lineups will look like more with sort of mixing and matching sort of the bench guys with, Khalil, Malik, and McKenzie obviously played some more in the second half than he has all season, and that's a good thing because he hadn't done that yet this year, really. I think he only finished the game on the floor once so far this season in the last 5 minutes. You can see him taking steps in the right direction. But Woodson talked about, the team's got to get healthy here when you got your first Big Ten games coming up pretty quick.
Yeah, that is a concern. Malik Renew was clearly hampered by a back problem. As I said, Xavier Johnson went out. It seemed like it was a recurrence of this
I think it was on that. He had a 3-point play
thing
where he cut across the court, and he got tripped up, kind of came up, and he made the free throw and checked out right away, and then never played again. So,
yeah.
You kind of saw that was against Wright State where he originally injured it. And he said he gutted it out at the Empire Classic, essentially. I just didn't want to miss those stretches of games. And the one game he was in so much foul trouble, he couldn't really get injured. So, you got to get him healthy, for these games coming up.
Mackenzie Mbako, I think, is a talking point tonight. 18 points, 8 rebounds. Only a couple turnovers. Looked a little better defensively, I thought. I think in particular, I think one thing Mike Woodson probably really wants to impress upon him is if you pull down 8 rebounds a game, that makes us a lot better defensively, because Mbako is the sort of player with his length, and if Indiana's going to play him at the 3, that can close possessions on long caroms. When teams are shooting jumpers against Indiana, whether they're trying for threes or they just don't want to challenge Ware and Renew at the rim, Mbako is as good as anybody, or at least in theory, on paper, as good as anybody at clearing some of those rebounds, ending some of those possessions. He looked more comfortable tonight. Obviously, it's far and away his best performance. But it's also interesting, Mike Woodson is really sticking with this line of, he's a freshman. I'm not going to expect too much of him, and you shouldn't either, essentially. I understand, sort of the natural conflict there between that train of thought and Mbako being a McDonald's All-American, a 5-star top 10 player. But I think it's probably – I think I understand Woodson's reasoning in his approach to Mbako right now of just sort of trying to build him slowly, and frankly the way he's building this team.
Well, I think the disconnect is he kind of sort of says that's like the media's got these expectations for him. It's the fact that when you're a top 10, top 15 type of player in the country as a senior, there are naturally expectations. And when you're sort of a foundational player, when you come in and you didn't sign anybody else of that sort of magnitude, you do expect them that they need to have an impact for the team to hit their ceiling. I don't think it has anything to do us with saying, like, McKenzie needs to average 15 points a game or he's a failure. I just think it's that, look, the team was built in a way where if that's the guy, he's your star guy, of course there's expectations for him. There's no other way around that. Offensively, like you said, still struggling with his three-point shot at times. Hit a couple long two-pointers, had a three-pointer, but in the second half, whiffed on a couple. It seems to be streaky, and then I think that speaks to sort of playing with confidence, trying to find his rhythm. And I think it's just going to, you could see that it's going to be an up and down, at least first couple of months for him as he sort of finds his footing as a college player.
No, and I think, probably a little bit better defensively, but I think you could say that about a number of guys. I think Gabe Cupps, I know he had the fouls against Malik Mack, who had 27 points. He's a freshman for Harvard. He's outstanding. But I thought Cupps had good minutes. Leal plays 6 minutes. I think gave Indiana some smart possessions. Caleb Banks continues to get better, 6 points, 3 rebounds off the bench, hit 2 threes.
Well, and if you're him in particular, if you can come in once the first half and once the second half and just hit a 3-pointer, that's good for this team right now.
Yeah.
Really, that's all they have.
And again, another one of those players that I think Indiana really needs to be better on the glass. He was obviously great in that area against Louisville. 3 more rebounds tonight. Listen, I think what I come back to is there's no, there's a lot of ground between suggesting Indiana played better today and suggesting Indiana's fine. It's clear this team is still figuring a lot of stuff out, but you can see some progress. I think it's fair to say.
But I think you could see ways that they would have easily lost. Like if Harvard shoots what they did in the first half from 3-point range, in the second half, this game's coming down to the wire, right? When they had 8 3-pointers in the first half, I think we're 1 of 8 at one point in the second half and just lost the touch. But teams since Indiana, you've beaten this horse, doesn't shoot or can't shoot 3-pointers right now. It's going to find themselves in some games against teams that just light it up. With sort of, not even quality, just quantity of shots. If some of those go in, they're going to struggle because they're going to trade those points. You're going to trade 2 for 1 essentially.
And Indiana was a lot better in the second half offensively. Harvard was 14 of 28 in the first half, 12 of 32 in the second half. Only 1 of their 9 made 3-pointers came in the second half. That wasn't by accident. And it wasn't, Harvard was getting good shots in the first half and making them. And then Harvard was missing was not getting good shots in the second half and missing bad ones.
Yeah.
So Indiana, again, you felt like a game where maybe the adjustments absorbed a little bit better. Indiana sort of, realized what it needed to do against Harvard a little bit better. Frankly, also a game, and I don't want to go too deep into this video. 89 points. There's something to be said for the idea that sometimes good defense is good offense. And when you're playing a team that's a little bit overmatched, athletically, size-wise, whatever, if you can cut down on these lengthy sort of scoring droughts we've seen Indiana have, that scoreboard pressure helps your defense because then suddenly guys feel like they've got to rush possessions, they've got to take bad shots, and then that allows. I thought Harvard did get a little bit desperate, and Mack I think was in and out of. I don't know if he had. There was a weird stretch where Indiana basically took control of the game while he was on the bench. And I think Tommy Amaker probably needed to go back to him sooner. But it's just, again, without suggesting Indiana is fixed, without suggesting Indiana is fine, it did feel like Indiana got better today. They're 5-1. They host Maryland on Friday. That'll be a fascinating game. 2 Big Ten teams that I think probably don't really know exactly where they stack up in the conference right now because of some uneven non-conference performances. We'll be there between now and then. Obviously, anything and everything that comes up related to the football coaching search and all of that jazz. HeraldTimesOnline.com, IndyStar.com/sports. He's Mike Niziolek. I'm Zach Osterman. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry about all the glare. It's just the lights here at Cambridge.
The spotlight follows me. Right?
Yeah, it's that too. That as well. Let's go take a nap. I'm tired.